and monthly meeting agenda. We're going to start this off with a prayer by yours truly, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's bow our head, please. Gracious God, we ask for your blessings as we come together in this meeting tonight. Father, we bring before you the Newton County school system and the men and women who are in positions of authority within the school system. Please give us your guidance and direction by opening your hearts and minds to your wisdom and understanding. As we seek to do your will for the Newton County school system, we ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Let's stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The first thing is public participation.
We have one. Public participation is the time that the board has set aside to encourage you as members of our community to voice your opinion on any matter, either included or on or excluded from the printed agenda. A maximum time of 5 minutes will be allotted to a single individual or a single topic based on the number of requests. Complaints against any employee or of the school system will not be heard unless the complaint has been submitted in writing to the superintendent at least 7 days prior to the board meeting. If unresolved, any personal complaints about school personnel must be put in writing for the board to review in executive session. Personal attacks against any member of the board will not be tolerated. Once the time for public participation has passed, discussion of the topics will be restricted to board members only. Thank you in advance for complying with this request. I'm Sharon Ward.
I have made a copy if it's okay to give to you all. And I apologize for the font size. I was just trying to keep it to one page. Some of you have colored paper and some have plain. But first, I just want to say thank you to the board for your efforts that you've made in the past school year. And I know that you are bringing that same zeal into the current coming up school year. I'm speaking as a parent, I'm speaking as a teacher, and as a community member. So I'm wearing a couple of hats tonight. I went through and read the reports from the CRCT results and was happy to see the gains that were made in some of the schools. But I was also unsettled and uneasy with some of the areas where we still need to address. And so this is just sort of my musings. I came up with just a couple of thoughts to share with you. The thought of a school program called Rise and Shine came to me. And the mission of this program would be to just support and assist those struggling students in the Newton County system. The goal would be to bring those students to meet and exceed the school academic standards, specifically in reading and math, because we know those are the areas that are tested. I would envision doing this with small group or small or one-on-one in a pilot school, in a pilot program. I'm sure there is some building within one of our schools that could possibly house, particularly if we think about the schools that were, if I recall, out of, let's say, 15 areas, there were some schools that, you know, maybe had 6 or 7 or 4 or 11. So one of the issues would be what school has the greatest need. But at the same time, I think it would be very important that there be receptivity from the faculty and administration of that school, and that there would be space. In my mind, if everything worked out, I would love to see this program happen between 9 and 2 so that we could take advantage of the fact that students are there. And I found this little quote, and it's I don't know what font size this is, so I may not be able to read it myself, but it was intriguing, and to me it kind of summed up where I'm hoping that we will remove the obstacles. We can always name obstacles, but I want us to look forward and figure out how can we, given the pot that we have, at the end of the school year coming, that we can look back and say, wow, these students who have traditionally been struggling, we can now add that to the positive side instead of, continually bringing the same population of students forward for the next school year. So the quote in ending says, read every day something that no one else is reading. Think every day something that no one else is thinking. Do every day something no one else would be silly enough to do. It is bad for the mind to continually be part of unanimity. And so I'm hoping that you would at least consider. It doesn't have to be in this form that I'm proposing, but whatever way, if I can be of assistance, I just want to offer my assistance to help, and again, specifically a struggling population of students. Give me the lowest of the low. That's who I want to work with. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and we'll turn this information over to the appropriate staff, and someone will get back to you. Okay, we'll go to the next item, please. I need a motion to approve the agenda in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Motion approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion accepted. I need a motion to approve the minutes in a second.
Second.
Been motion and properly second. Minute, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now we'll start off with the superintendent's report. And I call up Dr. Carpenter.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. We have a pretty brief operations report given the summer months, but I'll bring a little bit of attention to a couple items. If you look at business and finance, SPLOST collections for May were up $50,814 with $976,322 collected compared with April, when that figure was $925,508. So total SPLOST 3 receipts for the first 29 months is $23,046,715, and we're averaging $860,392 per month, and that's an increase over what we averaged for the life of our previous SPLOST, about $30,000. Capital projects, you'll see there, I encourage you to go out and take a look at Newton High School. It's moving on schedule and lots of work being done. You'll see the outside retaining walls have been completed. The building walls have been completed, and we're doing the rough work related to our electrical and plumbing. Our underground work is near completion, so a lot is going on that site. Those are only two items, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring attention to, and be reminded that we do not have a financial report as we're closing the year.
Okay. Well, let's. Okay. Thank you for that one. I'll call you back up. So, what's the next one? Any comments, questions on Dr. Cobb's report operation? If not, we'll go to curriculum and instruction program. That's Mr. Peck.
Good evening. June and July have been very busy months in the Curriculum, Instruction, and Technology Department. We've been training and preparing teachers for the implementation of the new Common Core Georgia Performance Standards. Elementary teachers wrote ELA units that incorporated research-based instructional strategies and critical vocabulary and many of the learning-focused strategies that our teachers have been trained on that mirror Marzano's research-based instructional strategies. All of our middle and high school English and math teachers were involved in a 2-day intensive training on how to implement the different components of Springboard with their students in the classroom. Curriculum maps were also developed with a pacing guide of when and how lessons should be taught. Assessment prompts were also included in the map. All of our middle schools and Newton County High School were involved in 3 days of training for positive behavior interventions and support. We are looking forward to these interventions to help decrease the number of discipline referrals in the secondary schools. The 21st Century Summer Enrichment, held June 11th through the 29th, served over 200 students in grades K through 12. The 3-week camp was aimed at enhancing academic skills and preparing students to become more proficient in math and science by working on science, technology, and mathematics projects. The students also had the opportunity to enjoy horseback riding and visit several locations in Atlanta, including the World of Coca-Cola, Georgia Aquarium, CNN Center, Legoland, and the beautiful Callaway Gardens. We are currently analyzing all assessment data and identifying our district's strengths and weaknesses. We are identifying any underperforming subgroups and creating a district plan to remediate those students that are underperforming. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Any comments from any of the board members? If not, we'll go to old business. Dr. Shattuck, please.
Mrs. Ferry, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board. We have 2 old business items from last month. The first one is revisions to board policy IFBG, which deals with the computer use policy. What had to be added, it was a actually it was a federal requirement that it be added. We've been doing the internet safety instruction this past year, but they required that we actually put it into board policy that this instruction will take place. So what I did, if you'll notice on the first page of that policy, is that I added 2 paragraphs basically outlining what the federal government requires that we have in our policy. And it says that we'll do instruction on cyberbullying and internet safety to all students.
Any comments from the board members on the item A? Item B?
Item B is a request relative to the construction of the Network Operations Center in the basement of the Career Academy. We've been talking about this for 11 months, and last month I brought to you the bid that came in to actually construct the room. And you asked that we postpone it 1 month to give you time to think about it and talk about it and discuss it based upon the fact that I presented it at the last meeting of the month, and you hadn't been presented that earlier to have a time to digest it. As you know, I feel that there's a need to construct an additional network operations center at the Career Academy in the basement in order to protect the safety of the equipment that we have and the data that we have on that equipment. And the bids came in higher than we had anticipated, and that's one of the reasons that I thought it'd be a good idea that we postpone the discussion of this until this month. Last month I presented 2 options. One option was to build the room as is and keep everything else the same. And the second option was to build the room, renovate the 5 first priority schools, and do not renovate the second priority schools.
Okay, the portion that rings the bell with me, I believe that we concurred on the work to be done, but there was some question as to how the additional $25,000 should be spent and what would the allocation be. Am I understanding? So I guess the question, there was some issue as to how would it come out of the capital funds or what. So I think that's the issue. Any of the board members got any comment on that? So we'll know what we faced with.
Last month, Dr. Carpenter mentioned that the money would come out of capital projects. I'd be very happy to have him address your questions of that issue. Dr. Carpenter?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other option, any comments from the board?
We tabled it into this month though, right?
Correct.
Correct.
Your attachment says tabulations are attached. Is there a way I can see those tabulations again because it's not attached?
I don't have those tabulations with me. Mr. Goins, do you have those tabulations? Yes.
The bid, the amount of the
And Ms.
bid is
Allen?
on here, but the tabulations aren't attached.
Actual bid, it was listed previously, but it's not on there.
Ray, do you haven't had those tabulations with you?
We don't have the actual bid, we have the,
Maybe Miss Allen has those tabulations. Miss Allen? Yes. These were the official bid tabulations. Would you like to pass that around?
Can you refresh my memory on what was the amount that we were originally guessing?
I was originally guessing for the construction part, excluding the air conditioning system, to be $350,000. This bid included the air conditioning system, so it's not really apples to apples comparison.
But in order to pay for this, we are having to decide if we're gonna do the second tier of schools or not.
Correct.
So if we accept this as is, we will not be able to pay for, out of the E-rate funds, the second tier of schools, correct?
We would pay for all of them except $25,000.
Right.
It would be a
Which is that
$25,000
second.
that would have to come out of capital projects.
let me ask you this. Looking at our most recent schools that has been updated, if we left those out and dealt with the ones that is in great need of updating, what would that bring our figure to?
The total cost, if I'm not mistaken, would be, well, the cost of, that's just the construction. And what you're really talking about is the total budget we had aligned for
Right.
this. If I remember correctly, that we would save, we could turn back into the general fund about $50,000 if we did not do priority 2 schools. By doing if we did priority 2 schools, we would cost out of capital projects an additional $25,000. The priority 2 schools are veterans, a small portion of Alcovy, and Rocky Plains. What we would, eventually we would have to do those schools, we'd have to renovate those schools. If we did renovate it, going from memory now, I don't have that information with me, but if we did renovate those, if we did not renovate those schools now and waited to fund that strictly out of capital projects later, not using any re-rate because the E-rate wouldn't be available at that point, we would cost us an additional, somewhere in the range of $200,000. Again, I'm going from memory. I don't have those numbers in front of me.
So this could potentially cost us $200,000 later on down the road, or just $25,000 now.
Correct. If we do not do the priority 2 schools, it would cost us an additional $200,000 down the road. Now it would cost us $25,000.
Now, you said the E-rate money may eventually stop, or you're not sure how long that we are going to get
Yeah,
monies from that.
there is, what has happened, there's 2 different priorities in E-rate, and one of them is telecommunications, which is guaranteed funding, and the other part is what they call priority 2 funding areas, which is internal connections. So this is what we're talking about, switches and the cabling and that sort of thing. The year we're entering into now, which is our fiscal year 13, they do not have enough money to pay even all the telecommunications for all the school districts. And in the past, that has been guaranteed money. They've always had enough money to pay for all the telecommunications.
Okay.
But this year they do not. So I'm very concerned about the future of the E-rate and what it's going to provide for us.
What happens to the money if you don't spend it? Is it one of those funds that you have to spend?
If you don't spend it, it just reverts back to the E-rate people.
So if we don't spend it, we lose it.
That's correct.
Okay, one other question, to make sure I'm clear. With our priority 2 schools, are you saying that all of those schools that need upgrading will cost us about $200,000? And my question is there a school that could get by that we wouldn't have to spend the $25,000 out of capital? That's my question.
The school that, if we had to eliminate one school out of that mix, I would like to eliminate Rocky Plains. It has the least dollar amount, and I should have brought that information with me, but I did not. But Rocky Plains is the least amount of money of the list of schools. Veterans has the most amount of money, and Alcovy the second, and then Rocky Plains the least.
And I guess my second part of that question would be, which of those private schools is in more desperate need of an upgrade? Not considering the least amount of money spent, but the ones that is desperately in need of upgrading.
The ones that need it the most are the secondary schools, Veterans and Alcovy, because with the upgrades allow for a faster speed or a larger internet, or not internet, but the pipe between the schools and the board office. And they're the ones with the largest number of students and the largest need.
I have a question, feeding off of Mr. Turner's question, actually. Do you happen to have, and you may not have it, I'm just listening to the dialogue here, you're saying Rocky Plains, if you had a choice, would be eliminated. Do you happen to have, or somebody have, how many technology calls were made from Rocky Plains for this past school year?
No, I have that information, but I don't have it with me.
Okay.
I keep a very detailed record of all the technology work requests that we get.
Yeah.
We had over 12,000 this last school year for the entire school system. But I don't have it broken down by school. I mean, I do, but I don't have it with me.
Like I said, with the advent of Alcovy being one of the latest schools, it would appear to me that it should be, quote unquote, up to speed more than the other schools. And it concerns me that the school of that nature, that we did not, apparently what I hear, didn't put in sufficient grade of material that will help us out during these times. It seems to have a short life expectancy to go back in and redo it. I don't know if that's spread out throughout the school. Is there a particular wing of the school that we're talking about?
No, so we're talking about the core switch in the school. And when we built
Excuse me. The reason I asked that, I'm visualizing that Alcovy lost some of its activity from, we went into the Career Center in Alcovy. Now that that is predominantly moved out, that should lessen the congestion.
Well, there's no doubt the reduction of the CTA program to the Career Academy has eased the burden on Alcovy's internet access. That's true. But Alcovy does have 2,000 students. And it's that they still have 2,000 students. They still have a lot of computer labs. They still have a lot of internet activity from that school. And that's the reason I suggested, when Alcovy was built in 2006, we put the latest technology we were using at that time, which is a 1 gigabit core switch, or backbone core switch, with 100 megabit traffic to the desktop. When we built Flint Hill and the Career Academy, we had made the decision, because of the way the society was going and the internet was using more and more bandwidth, that we upgrade all schools to 10 megabit 10 gigabit backbone and a core switch, and 1 gigabit to the desktop. I know you understand what I'm talking about, Mr. Johnson. And as a result, we're in the process of trying to go back and retrofit the older schools, the existing schools. I'm not saying, Alcovy had what we were putting in all the schools when they were built 6 years ago. But we have changed what our requirements were because of the need. We have a greater and greater need for more and more bandwidth, and we're just trying to meet that need.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? So I guess the bottom line is what I don't hear from the board, and correct me, not speaking with the board entirely, but we got two options. Either reduce one, I think one will cover it, of the schools, or we take the 25 grand out of capital budget. That's our choice, as I see it now. Anybody disagree with that? So should we go on a motion as to what you want to do, or we just lump it in and take the funds out of capital? Any objections to that approach?
I will be honest, I would be not, and I know Dr. Shattuck that I asked about the issue being tabled at the last meeting. But that one question that I have, I would feel better with making a sound decision if I had the answer to it about the technology calls at Rocky Plains. I think that would help me in making my decision, but I'm just one person.
Well, we postponed it for a month, you know.
Mr. Johnson, if you'd like to go on to some new business, I will be glad to present that at the end of new business.
I have no problem with that. Anybody have an objection to that?
I have no objection to that.
We'll take you up on that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll postpone that. Let me regress a little bit. Thank you, Dr. Shattuck. I need a motion and a second on the superintendent's report.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The superintendent's report accepted. Okay, we'll wait on Dr. Shattuck and come back to new business. Dr. Carpenter, I believe you got A through H.
I hesitate to walk up here after all of the discussion about 25,000, but here it goes. The superintendent recommends the approval of a change order for the installation of lighting for the practice fields and football fields at the Newton High School replacement. And this project would total $539,143. And just to be plain, and Mr. Moore is here to explain, we just did not include it in the bid. It was our oversight. It was not included in the bid, and here it is. The good news is that we're nowhere near the contingency on that project. It's just that I don't have the authority to authorize a change order over $25,000. But we do have contingencies. We met with Ms. Bullock, and those dollars are there in the project. And we knew we were pretty low for some reason, so that was it. I'll take the blame, Mr. Moore. But that is the case, and it is a $539,143 change order.
I saw some light posts up there. That's not enough?
No. The athletic directors and the coaches have already, they came to us and they said, we don't have the lights for the ball fields. And I said, we didn't do it on any of the projects. And I called Mr. Moore, and Mr. Moore said, we didn't do it on any of Alcove either, on East Side. And then we called Barry Spurlock, and we did do it on the other projects. And that's it. We just did not include it in the bid.
Okay. Let me, for clarification, work session and regular meeting, are you looking for approval on this tonight, or we carry this over?
Well, we are looking for approval tonight, and the reason is it's kind of interfacing with the other work, and if we don't get to it, then we'll have to go back and have the company, McKnight, redo some things by pulling up. They're working on sod and irrigation and those kinds of things, and we're going to be working backwards if we don't go ahead and move on it.
Okay. Okay, all who want to honor this request at this time, let it be known by this saying aye, and we'll vote on it.
Need a motion.
Well, okay, I need a motion and a second for this request. A.
So moved.
The motion has been moved and properly second. All in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. You got your first throwdown, Dr.
One down, several to go. Thank you. Item B, the superintendent recommends the adoption of the attached contract for membership in Griffin RESA. This is a yearly membership, and it generally goes up by a couple $1,000s every year. And if you look here, there is an increase of $4,308, and it has to do with the amount that they charge for the services. But as a point of background, Griffin RESA provides us with our basic membership, repair services, audiology services, orientation and mobility services, and that's what they provide. And it's on a FTE per FTE basis, and they kind of formula driven, and each year they tell us what we owe to be a part of Griffin RESA. So this year there is an increase of $4,308 for our membership, but it's a valuable service in a lot of areas to our school system.
Any comments, questions? If you don't need, Dr. Copeland, will you tell us if you need a request tonight? I'm just.
Well, given
if
the
you do, tell us. We'll
yes,
vote
sir.
on it.
With
but
all
if not,
items,
we'll go down the list until you get.
With all items tonight, given the combined nature of the meeting.
You will need it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Item C then, no comments? We'll come back, we'll
Okay.
come back in.
And item C, we're looking at HVAC services. The superintendent recommends the annual renewable contract be awarded to Beam Enterprises of New Bern, Georgia, for purchasing heating, ventilating, and air conditioning contractor services. This contract was originally awarded July 20th of 2010, and we'll be in our third year with Beam Enterprises. They have performed satisfactorily, and the annual estimated value is $370,000.
Any comments from board members?
I just got a question.
Yes,
Is there a
ma'am.
max amount of years that the same company?
Yes, we generally do 4 years.
4 years?
Mhm.
Okay.
Some things we do 3 years. If they don't perform satisfactorily, we do 1 year.
Okay.
So it just kind of all depends, but no more than 4
Okay.
before we do a bid. And a lot of times, just for the benefit of you, Ms. Henderson Bacon, whoever else that might be interested, they invest monies these contractors do to be a part of our school system. For example, we look at sanitation services, where they put in the waterless urinal piece, or they put in the paper towel dispensers and all those things, so we don't like to change them out,
Okay,
in a year's time. So policy allows us to give them up to 4 years.
okay, perfect.
All right, if you look at item D, this has to do with the superintendent's authorization to employ or transfer staff in the first several days of school or the first month of school. We do this each and every year, and the superintendent recommends that he be authorized to employ or transfer staff during the first month of school as enrollment or class size equity within the district demands. And you'll see what our class size bases are there, but sometimes kids don't fall where we think they'll fall during allocation time. And it may not require that we employ a staff member unless we just see a boom in our enrollment, and we don't foresee that. But it does require from time to time that we move staff from one building to another, and because we won't have a board meeting before that needs to be done, that's the reason for this authorization.
Okay. Any comments on this item? Next one, Dr. Carpenter.
Use of facilities, we have an agreement where the superintendent recommends approval of the use of facilities at Alcova High School be granted to East Ridge Community Church. Board policy allows for groups to make application that are nonprofits, and this church has made application East Ridge, and the principal at Alcova has granted approval, and they'll be using the church will be using the school on Sunday mornings from 6:30 until 12:30 p.m. beginning August 5th. And Dr. Carpenter is in agreement, and she's found a person to work in a custodial capacity for this church to be paid by the church.
Any comments? Next item, Dr. Carpenter.
Our millage rate. The superintendent recommends the adoption of the FY13 millage rates as follows. Our M&O millage rate we know is 20 mills, and our debt service millage rate will increase a little to 1.9 mills for a total of 21.9 mills. And that has to do with our paying back of bond debt and our 2012 bond interest payments, but keeping in mind that the reason that the millage rate increases is because our property valuations are going down. So with the decrease in the property valuations and the payback interest or debt service millage, you have to increase that debt service millage rate. Again, our 20 mills is at max, and of course we have to levy the millage rate required to make the payments needed in terms of debt service, and that rate is 1.9 mils for the coming year.
Any questions? Item G, Dr. Carpenter.
And item G, the State Department requires a class size resolution for any district that anticipates going over the maximum class sizes established by the state board in 2007. And we've done this for the last 3 years. They have not given us any new class sizes since 2007, given the economic downturn and those unforeseen events which have caused districts to do things a little bit different. So with that said, the superintendent recommends approval of a class size resolution for submission to the State Department of Ed, which reflects the instructional program class sizes the Newton County school system may, we're not in terms of this resolution, utilized during the 2012-2013 school year that are above current State Board of Education requirements. If you look there at the resolution, you'll see that we're looking at 1 to 5 students in grades K through 12 regular ed, 1 to 5 students in ELL classrooms, 1 to 7 in gifted, 1 to 5 in EIP programs, 1 to 5 in remedial programs, and 1 to 5 in physical ed. Again, we're not using all of these class sizes, but if we were in a situation where we had this enrollment boom and we needed to do so, we would have that latitude given our resolution, kind of like insurance.
Okay, any comments from the board members on this item? Next item, Dr. Carpenter.
In the final item, we have our surplus items. The superintendent recommends declaring the items on the attached surplus equipment forms as no longer serviceable to the school system and authorizing the appropriate disposal of these items through a salvage company. And you'll see items here coming from that first school. There's Clements Middle School. That should be a C. We're going to fix that, but we didn't have any power this afternoon to our computers. Indian Creek Middle School, Middle Ridge, Live Oak, Oak Hill, Palmerstone, the nutrition program, transportation, and West Newton. And you have those items clearly marked on the attached forms. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my items. I think we took action on item A, so we're looking at items B through H.
Okay, well, we want to do this in a one-stroke motion. If there are no comments from item B through H, I'll give you time to respond. I need a motion and a second to approve the items B through H.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion approved, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. B through 8 approved. Thank you again, Dr. Carpenter. Dr. West.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The superintendent recommends the approval of the attached agreements between the Newton County School System and the agencies for speech therapy services. That's hard to say all in one time. The agencies are Wingard Therapy, Provida Staff, Ardor Health Solutions, and Soliant Health. We have, in the years that I have been here, and I think previously, had to reach out to agencies to find the number of speech-language pathologists that we need for the system. I will say that this year we were able to negotiate the price downward, so it is less than we paid per hour last year, probably saving us about $7,200 a year per SLP. So that's a good thing, but we still need to work with agencies to provide those services.
Any comments? Okay, you heard the presentation. I need a motion to approve item I as presented.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion carries. Item J, Dr. Thomas.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Fury, ladies and gentlemen of the board. The superintendent recommends the purchase of Brain Pop subscription, which is carried by Novations, Inc., in the sum of $31,844. Brain Pop is an online program that creates animated, curriculum-based content to support educators and engage students. BrainPop can be used at school or at home. And this is a resource that includes movies, quizzes, experiments, timelines, activity pages, and it covers hundreds of topics within the subject areas of math, science, social studies, English, technology, arts, music, and health. All content is aligned and is searchable by the state standards. BrainPop also offers a variety of valuable resources to include professional development, archived webinars, ideas for integration into the classroom, curriculum calendars, lesson plans, graphic organizers, activity pages, and other training resources, just to name a few. The subscription would include BrainPop, which covers grades 3 through 8, BrainPop Junior, which covers grades K through 2, and BrainPop ESL, which is a Spanish translation of K through 8, the K through 8 program. It will be purchased for all of the Title I elementary and middle schools, which consists of 19 schools.
Okay, any comments from any of the board members? I don't, 1 second, please. Okay, are there any comments on item I? No, I'm sorry. J. No comments, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item K, thank you, Dr. Thomas. Dr. West.
This motion is this is the superintendent recommending physical therapist, occupational therapist, and interpretation services for students with disabilities. We have provided these through contract arrangements with individuals through the school system. Now, the physical and occupational therapists are on payroll status, and they do get employee benefits with their contracts. However, the sign language interpreter is an individual contract without benefits. So those are listed there. We have 2 physical therapists, a number of occupational therapists, and 1 sign language interpreter that we contract with.
Any questions from board members? No questions? I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion been properly second. All in favor of the recommendation? Let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. West, again. Item L, Ms. Finley?
Good evening, everyone. Item L, Superintendent recommends the resolution for a waiver of Rule 160-4-8.12, which applies to the instructional time for middle school students in the Ombudsman program. Students in the Ombudsman program attend 240 minutes each day, and it requires the signature waiver for the required 330 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Finley. Any comments? Can I get a motion for approval? Second?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. Woodward?
Good evening.
Good evening.
The superintendent recommends that a memorandum of understanding between Georgia Piedmont Technical College and the Newton County School System on behalf of the Newton College and Career Academy be approved. Georgia Piedmont Technical College is currently providing dual enrollment programs for our high school students. However, this memorandum of understanding is to allow GPTC to offer evening credit and continuing ed classes for the purposes of economic development in Newton County. These classes are being recommended by the Chamber of Commerce to help certain industries, and we have the lab set up, and the Newton campus doesn't have these type labs set up here, so this memorandum of understanding is to cover their participation for GPTC students in the evening after school hours.
Okay. Any costs associated with that to the Newton County school system?
No, sir. They'll actually pay a minimal amount for use of the facilities. They'll provide an evening coordinator to be on site for that as well. And they'll pay their tuition and associated costs will pay for the supplies that they'll use.
And I don't see a time frame when you say after hours.
It would be beyond the regular school day, 5 o'clock till 9 o'clock.
Okay. Will this include any security?
They'll have the evening coordinators who they would have on site. But currently, we don't have a SRO at the Career Academy either. We're operating in conjunction with Newton High School and utilizing their SRO.
But Newton will be closed when.
Correct.
So what plans do we have to extend the coverage there?
We haven't given thought to that. That's something I need to visit with Georgia Piedmont Technical College about. I guess they were thinking in what they do at Rockdale Career Academy.
At Rockdale they provide it.
They provide security?
I've seen a security officer in a GPT. Wait a minute,
Georgia Piedmont.
GPTC, new name change.
Believe me, it keeps me confused. I can easily visit with them and see what they typically provide. But
usually this is a different grade of student anyway, so.
It is a college student. It's not.
Well, we don't need it until we need it. So I have a concern about that,
Okay.
So if you can follow up on that, I would appreciate it personally.
Okay, you bet.
And can we hold this one off until next get back?
They're hoping to start offering these courses in August, so if we could.
If would be the pleasure of the chairman, I would like to say that we go ahead and approve it so they can get started and discuss the possibility of security at a later date.
And we can add that into the memorandum of understanding before the superintendent signs it.
Sound like a workable solution to me.
Okay, all right, cool.
Can I get a motion for approval in a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Dr. Shattuck, you?
You get me twice tonight. Let me do items N and O, and then if I could, come back to the old business, if that's acceptable to the board.
Right.
Item N is a bid that we let in June for the active boards and their accessories. It went out to the various websites, and we had 5 bids that came back. The superintendent recommends the annual renewable contract for active boards and accessories for the technology department be awarded to Logical Choice Technologies of Lawrenceville, Georgia. The effective date will be July 18, 2012, and the expiration date will be July 17, 2013. Like I said, the invitation for bid was sent out. We had 5 people who returned bids. It was very competitive, but Logical Choice was the company with the lowest bid. And it's this bid that we'll use when we construct the new Newton High School, as far as putting in the active components in that school.
Any questions from any of the board members? Gee, this is a biggie and no comments. How much is this E-rate?
The active board and their components is not E-ratable at all.
No. And this was budgeted?
This is, but yes, this is budgeted. We've put it in every school since South Salem, every new school. And now we've put it in every school. We have 75% of all our classrooms have active boards.
Okay.
And we put it in every classroom in the Career Academy, for example. Now, the bid or the board item mentions approximately $700,000. That's just an estimate. That's not what will be spent on the Newton High School. There'll be less than that, but we buy active boards throughout the year as schools get funds from Title I and other funds, and then they use those to
I got you now.
buy their boards for the classrooms that still do not have them.
Okay. I thought this was a lump sum. Once you said that, I'm fine.
Does this just include the boards itself? Does this include the active sound and?
This includes the active sound, includes active votes, active expressions.
Okay.
The bid had 34 different items on them because we buy little pieces along as we need them, but we wanted to include that in the bid, so we got the best pricing.
Okay.
Any other comments? Can I get a motion, a second for approval?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, approved.
Okay, item O. Item O is for the renewal of a contract for internet content filter software. The superintendent recommends the renewal of the contract awarded to Diversified Computer Solutions for Lightspeed Web Access Manager software. The effective date of this contract will be August 18th, 2012, and the expiration date will be August 17th, 2013. This contract was originally awarded on August 18th, 2009, and the school system initially purchased 7,000 licenses and with support for $28,000. The contract this year was for 9,659 licenses. The number of licenses is based upon how many computers you have. So as we've added more computers to the system, we've had to increase the number of licenses. The individual license cost, however, has not gone up at all. It has stayed constant from the original contract date. So the cost per license has remained the same. And the contract cost would be $38,636. We have tried multiple filters over the years, and this is the best one we have found. We don't have any problems with it, and before we used to have a lot of problems with the filter we used.
Any questions, board members? Comments? If not, can I get a motion for approval? Second?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
With the board's indulgence, I would like to go back to old business. Ms. Henderson Baker asked about the number of work orders for the Rocky Plains.
Thank you.
This is a printout of year to date. It was run on April 16th, and it started at August 1st. I don't actually keep track of the work orders through the summer because we have very few work orders because there's nobody in the schools. So I run from August 1st, the work order, a summary I run from August 1st, and I run it monthly, cumulatively, and by August, the middle of April, I do a final cumulative report because I use that for the technicians' annual evaluations, which I'm required to complete by the end of April. So I always run those up until about the middle of April. And I still look at the weekly reports, but I don't run the year-to-date reports after the middle of April. And you can see that all the schools are listed there. All the schools are listed there. And this is the number of work orders that were actually opened up by the schools during that time period. The second line under each school is the average time to resolution that the work was completed. The third number is the shortest time to resolution, and the last number is the longest time to resolution. And there's always a very detailed explanation of why some of the work orders don't get closed, because we're having trouble finding parts to close them, and that's usually the reason they run so long, the ones that are long. But you can see very few are that long when you consider the average time was 3 days.
Do you maintain an inventory of your highest mean time to fill components?
Yes, we do. We have a parts closet that includes the motherboards, the hard drives, the memory, the processor, the DVD drives, etc. But many times it's something that is not the ordinary type of thing, that some work orders are open so long. And sometimes it's not the computer itself. It could be something in the electronics or the cabling.
Well, in my initial observation here, I think you're doing an absolute outstanding job on average time and duration, as we mentioned before. This is incredible. I would like, I don't want to create any extra work by any means, but I'm concerned about the ones with the longest time. And if we can gather what they are, you may want to review your inventory list to see if you can help improve customer satisfaction in those. And I think it'll be just a plus on the job that you're doing now.
Yes, sir, I will do that. Keep in mind, Mr. Johnson, in the spring we also do a satisfaction survey, and we poll all 2,400 employees. This now ticket analysis is one of the components that goes into the technician's annual evaluation. The satisfaction survey is a second component that goes into evaluation. And on the average of all the schools, I break them down by schools, and I didn't bring that with me today, but on the average, the satisfaction level for the entire district is 96%. And I think that's an incredible high satisfaction level.
And another one I like to see is the troubles per user. On it, if you got X number of students, just put another line here, divide it, so you see what your report rate is per student or user.
Okay.
That's not.
We'll look into modifying our report.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this?
Ms. Henderson-Baker?
I'm putting it in chronological order by number. I'm sorry, y'all. I just have to make sure I have exhausted everything. So give me 1 second.
But if I could, while you're doing that, I brought down the PowerPoint that I showed you last month.
Okay, perfect.
And I think it would be helpful if we could look at that, instead of trying to do it from them.
Let me ask you one question here that I'm looking at, and I'm sure there's an explanation for it. Flint Hill, which is one of our nearest schools, and there's 1,200 detailed records there. And Newton, which is one of our older schools, and it's 1,700 there. Can you explain why there's...
I'm sorry, I was handing out those other reports. What was your question, Mr.
Okay,
Turner?
my question is your detailed records.
Yes, sir.
One of our nearest schools, which is Flint Hill, it has 1,200 detailed records versus Newton, which is one of our oldest schools, have 1,700. Can you explain that, why a new school will have just as many as an old?
Yes, I can. Flint, two things go into a work order. Number one, the person has to fill out the form and report it. And although I tell my technicians they cannot work on anything that there isn't paper to attach to that work that they do, many times they'll be stopped in the hallway and say, well, can you please do this? Can you please do that? And so sometimes work gets done that nothing gets reported into the system. And that's one issue. The second issue, every school has a position called a school technology assistant, sort of like an assistant technician. And they're located in the school every day. I mean, they're assigned to the school. The technicians, depending on the school, are either there all week long, every day, or some, like elementary schools, they may be there only 1 day a week. Depending on the elementary, middle, and high school, we have a schedule worked out that I think is fair to everybody. And sometimes those school technology assistants will do work orders that will never get reported as well. So Newton High School does a good job of reporting all their work orders, but so does Flint Hill. Flint Hill, you got to keep in mind, has their, number one, when you're new, all your equipment is new, so you would think that you would have less work orders. But because they have so much technology, they have all the active sound, they have all active boards, they have over 900 computers in the building, that invariably most of the problems that crop up are user error. People just don't know how to use it correctly, and they'll put in a work order, and so they'll have a lot of work orders. A new school will usually have a lot of work orders the first year as people get used to the equipment. Does that make sense, Mr. Turner?
Yeah.
And that's, it's clear to me that it is, because if you can look at the amount of time that it takes to repair for hardware versus a programming issue or a user issue, is very short in duration, and this bears a timeout. That is very short time.
Yeah, usually it gets reported, a user error gets reported and fixed the same day. Sometimes a hardware issue may take several days to resolve.
Right. Okay. Ms. Baker?
Okay, so I have Rocky Plains as number 9 out of 13. I just did elementary wise.
As far as the number of work orders?
Mm-hmm. What would, if we did not put Rocky Plains into place, what would that do? This is just to speed up.
I understand. If you could turn to this page on the second report I gave you, I think we can address your questions a lot easier looking at it at the same time. It's the first, it's a page, about page, I think it's either 4 or 5, says second priority schools at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wrong in what we would save, by the way, when we talked about how much we'd save if we did these schools now. The savings is $372,000, but that includes all the schools, and some of these have been done, the theme school and Cousins, for example. So our savings would actually be $297,000 if we did not, if we did the schools now as opposed to doing them later, just to answer the question Ms. Coggan had earlier. The Rocky Plains, our cost on that is $17,000. And so if we did not do that, we would save $17,000. But when we eventually did do it, it would cost us $85,000.
I guess then, my question is, and I guess this is a question for Dennis or Samantha, or Dr. Shad, it would come out of capital funds. Do we have the money in capital funds to spend that extra $25,000?
That's a question for Dr. Carpenter.
Yes, ma'am. We would just not do something else. Like, we're in the process now of looking at dollars that we're gonna allocate for HVAC services, asphalt repair, transportation, and technology. So whatever Dr. Shadid was getting in technology, it'll just be minus $25,000.
So then, Dr. Shadid, can you deal with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, if we have the funds there.
Mr. Carpenter will have to, or Dr. Carpenter and I will have to negotiate this.
If we have the funds there, as Dr. Carpenter just mentioned, and I think it's important that we continue doing the things we need to do in technology, because that's where our kids are learning from now and supporting their learning. I don't have a problem with it if the funds are there. So I have no problem with supporting it, because we need technology.
In 2 years down the road, we're gonna have to do this, or maybe longer, but it looks like Rocky Plains, Veterans, and Alcovey, the 3 schools that we're discussing, they need equipment and wireless. So eventually, we're gonna have to do it.
Anyway, yeah.
So
Yes.
it's better to go ahead and spend the money now and be able to save hundreds of thousands of dollars down the road.
Yes, ma'am.
I do have one quick question on this report. You have FICWIT. I was just counting to make sure I have the right amount of elementary schools. There's FICWIT on here, but then there's the theme school on here. Did I read that correctly? Wait a minute. No. That's right. I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay, back to item A and B, if we will. We need a motion. I need a motion, a second.
For
For,
item B.
I'm sorry.
For item B.
You've already approved item A, Mr.
I'm
Johnson.
sorry. I'm sorry. Item B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Pose the same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Fennell.
Thank
And
you,
Dr.
Mr.
Paddock,
Johnson.
thank you for this. I know I can be difficult.
Not at
Thank you.
all.
I can do all my little calculations.
I would rather everybody be satisfied they're making the right decision.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have item P, which is, I'm going to designate as participation. We have board training and governance that we have to sign off on according to standards and the Department of Education, stating that we have completed the required number of credit hours per rule as a board member to be a certified board, and that we have maintained and followed the code of ethics, and we've maintained and followed the rules on conflict of interest. And we all have to sign this, and we'll submit this August 1st to the DOE. We'll do this actual signing after we adjourn the meeting instead of, unless you just want to take it and sign it now.
Yeah, let's sign it now.
Okay. And I can continue the meeting if you will. And also, we do have to submit our training that we should be planning for the local board governors training for 2012 and 13. And we must submit our training, I would say, complete the form to Kathy, is that right? So that it can be submitted prior to September 1. Am I still correct, Kathy? Okay. So we need to do that. So,
3 hours needs to be done together.
together.
Okay. I gave Kathy the dates that I could not be available.
Okay.
So she has that, so I was able to work out all the 2 dates.
Okay. We have plenty of time, I think, all the month of August. So so please, each board member, work with Kathy, identify the dates that you are available, then we'll revisit this, and we'll have to group it somehow to make sure that we go as a team on many dates as we possibly can. Okay, that's item P. Any questions?
No, I was just gonna suggest, I know the audience can sometimes get lost kind of telling them what's going on with this part, like what the state has now mandated. Because I know we're up here dialoguing about the hours, but just for a point of reference, a point of clarity, they may not quite understand.
Be my guest.
Okay. So basically, to make a long story short, the state has now required each board member in the state of Georgia to have a certain amount of training hours. They have upped the amount of hours they're supposed to have. Of those hours, 3 hours, and this is a per year, annual fiscal year thing. Of those hours, 3 of those hours have to be done with the entire board, including the superintendent. So that's just a little short clarity on it. So there are a certain amount of hours that we have to have done by June
30th.
June 30th.
Fiscal year.
Yes.
So we just started anew.
So this was the first year that they actually counted those hours. So just to
In the
let
summer.
everybody know, yeah, make a long story short.
Okay. The next item on the list is item Q. Ms. Sanders?
Hold on.
Okay.
The superintendent recommends the approval of all personnel items outlined in executive session, as well as legal matters referencing case action file number 2011-1010-2.
Okay. Can we get a motion and a second to accept the recommendation? Need a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Pose the same sign. Motion adopted. Are there, we've concluded our regular thing. Are there, from the members of the board, any comments on other matters that you would like to address? Steve?
Go ahead, Abby, I have
Well, I
some
have two briefly. The first was we received an email today from Dr. Carpenter congratulating the, forgive me if I'm wrong, it's the procurement department for receiving I guess it was a national award, and I'd just like to say thank you. Y'all all do a great job, and their staff, and I know many people fall under this, but thank you, because that's just, I can't thank you enough for the things that you do and the awards that you receive. And there's some of the, we always talk about teachers, and you see articles in the paper about the accomplishments that the schools do, but we need to recognize this department too, because we definitely couldn't be where we are today without y'all.
And if one of y'all wouldn't mind, would you explain so people know exactly what that means?
Yeah, they have the opportunity to attend the national conference, and it's based on a rating scale of things that you do within your department. And we have not gotten our final grade yet. We've only gotten an email notification stating that we've graded out to receive the national award. So it'll be interesting to see if that grade is a 98, 100, or whatever. So we're waiting on that piece of it in the coming days.
So, thank you.
I think it's 100.
And on a second personal note, I just want to, I guess, get this off my chest for a moment. So bear with me. As you all know, over the past few months, the school system has had to deal with negative publicity through internet blogs. Sadly, these blogs have led to a lawsuit being brought forth, which now must be played out in the court system, and therefore we must give the individuals involved their due process. As frustrating as it may be, the justice system can take much longer than most of us would like in putting to rest the matters that are brought into the courtrooms on a daily basis, but we have to let the process play out no matter the length of time. With that said, in a new school year only a few weeks away, I want to personally and publicly say that my commitment and allegiance, if you will, is to the overall education of the students enrolled in our school system. I will not comment or be a part of the discussions being blogged about in our papers and other websites. If people want to make derogatory statements about the school system, Board of Education members, teachers, and administrators, then so be it. I stopped from reading and or paying attention to the negative remarks being printed in the blogs months ago. If individuals have complaints, then they need to come forward to meet with Dr. Matthews, appropriate staff, or Board of Education members. By hiding behind aliases while continuing to make negative statements does not do anyone any good. Ultimately, it only hurts the education of our students. To my knowledge, only a very small number of people have come forth over the past school year to make a complaint or give information which calls for an investigation. These complaints and incidents have been investigated thoroughly and have either come back clearing the accused or the individuals have been dealt with accordingly. If the papers want to continue to allow negative comments about our school system to be blogged about by individuals who are unwilling to come forth publicly and lodge a complaint or give information, then that is the paper's prerogative and right, and I will not ask them to stop. However, as a Board of Education member, I do not and will not give the blogs and the bloggers any merit. In my opinion, it is not fair to the students, staff, and schools to have this unfounded negative publicity overshadow their accomplishments. We have so much to be proud of here in Newton County Schools, and it is very sad that a shadow has been cast over the positive accomplishments our schools have made over this past year. I refuse to sit here any longer and listen to the same rhetoric being stated over and over again. As the mother to 2 young children, a wife, and working 2 part-time jobs, I do not have time to worry about what the next blogger will say about me or our school system. I must focus on the students. It is time for us all to grow up and act like adults. Adults should not need to hide behind an alias in a blog and debate the merits of one school or certain individuals. If anyone in the public feels that there is a situation that the Board of Education needs to be made aware of or needs to investigate, then they are welcome to come forth. Dr. Matthews and his staff will be happy to speak with the individuals, as will I. I am also certain that my fellow partners sitting on the board tonight will be willing to do the same. I want to start this new school year off on a clean slate and move forward. My children and the other students are counting on us, not just those of us elected to the Board of Education and not just the teachers, staff, and administrators. They are counting on our entire community to teach and lead them. The only way we as a community can do this is by acting as adults and move forward. I, for one, promise to do so.
Thank you, Ms. Abigail. Are there any other board members got any comments or anything? Well, I
Go ahead.
go ahead, I'll be last.
I concur with a number of things that Ms. Coggins has stated here. And it is sad, and I'm appalled that our school system has been subjected to so much negative publicity by way of bloggers using the newspaper and the media and other internet as a means of an attempt to tarnish the image of our school system here in Newton County. And I would like to make it clear that the Board of Education has no involvement in the lawsuit, and I will not respond to any questions as it relates to the lawsuit. I can say that any and all complaints concerns filed by concerned citizens have been fully investigated, and the accused has been cleared and dealt with according to school policies and our state law. I am committed in making sure that we address any and all concerns that come before the board. However, I don't feel it is my responsibility to continue to address issues that have been properly dealt with. Furthermore, if these bloggers have that much love for our children and our school system, why are you not willing to sit down and talk to the appropriate person or person to address your concerns? As we start a new school year, I knew our school system will continue to make the strides it has made over the past 2 years to make our school system the best. I want to thank teachers, administrators, paraprofessionals, cafeteria workers, bus drivers, and all other school staff for enduring through these stressful times and your hard work in making our school system the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Ms. Baker, you have any comments?
I do. It's not related to the subject, though, so.
Okay. Well, you want to do it or not?
Sure.
Go.
If you want to.
Okay. Well, I have a comment pertaining to the subject that's been mentioned here. I do take my position on the board very, very seriously. And I do have an issue, whether it's public or whatever, with the negative comments that we're seeing, hearing about the hard work that our workforce is going through. We have enough irritation and job satisfaction with the economic situation as it stands today. And in terms of the lawsuit, this society is governed by laws, and that lawsuit is by and between the plaintiff and the defendants, not against the school board. And it must be handled in a court of law. Currently, as I know it, speaking, there are no current violations or procedures of state, local, or board policy that has been experienced. And that's what the court of law should address and will be. The negative comments about our school system and employees from bloggers are generating excitement for some and the participants. However, but most importantly, it is building and making a toxic environment for our students and our workforce. Engaging in such non-productive, negative activity only hurt our most precious jewels, our students. It is neither prudent nor beneficial to attempt to govern this great institution for our students based on bloggers and their comments. We need our community support. We cannot do anything other than the best we know what to do to promote education and student achievement from this position of Board of Education. That I pledge. Ms. Baker.
Okay. I said it's not directly related to the subject. It sort of is, but I take a different approach on the entire issue. And my approach is that I have never hid who I am out in the community. I have never been incognito out in the community. People can recognize, I know I changed my hairstyle many times, but people can recognize me by my flower, which has been in the blogs. But the thing about how I address the issue is that I don't address people who don't reveal who they are. And I like to kind of use Ms. Lord as an example. I appreciate what she did tonight, yes. When you have an issue, you do not resolve an issue by simply bringing an issue and leaving it at that. That's what a coward does. When you have an issue, you come with a solution, and I appreciate that. So I say this for anybody who has an issue, yes, bring it forward, but at the same time, come with a solution. Use it as an example. When you're in the store and you're not satisfied, they always say, well, what would you like to see happen, ma'am or sir? So bring that solution along with you. And I use what she done as an example. She brought a solution. There's an issue. Bring a solution along with it. And so that's how I address it. I am a product of this school system. I am a very proud product of this school system. My two girls would be products of this school system as they are currently in the school system. I have faith in every school. As a board member, I feel like it is my responsibility to be sure that I can place my child in any school within our school system, regardless of what their test scores is, regardless of what is going on, and my children still succeed because I know what type of parent I am. And I think that's the issue that people understand. And as far as the negativity that this has brought, this has kind of caused the community or some community people to stray away from the good things that has happened within our school system, the good articles within the school system, even to the point one of you guys brought up that this is not a school issue. And this is not picking on any of the newspapers or anything, but I was on vacation at the time of that court hearing, and what the Twitter was called, just the name of it, versus the Board of Education. This was not a Board of Education issue. It was painted out like it was a school issue. It's people within the school, but it was not the Board of Education or not a Newton County school system issue. Just the title of it painted a bad picture. So I say this, if there is an issue, like all of us have said, bring it forward. But when you bring it forward, also bring solutions, bring suggestions. As an adult, we have to stop hiding behind certain names, if somebody is hiding. But as a parent of children within this school system, it is a shame that somebody or some people will find this entertaining at the most, because there are precious children involved in those schools. And I know I'm very long-winded, and I apologize, but I have faith within our schools, and you're not going to be able to satisfy everybody. I have learned that. I have learned you're not going to make everybody happy, but it's not fair for us to put something on some innocent people who are minors. And I'm saying all of that bad name calling and name suggesting and pointing the fingers, because ultimately we're here for the children, and that's what we have to keep in mind. So that's what I want to say about that. And I appreciate those community members who have reached out to us and continue to do good deeds for our school system, which leads a great segue to something else I wanted to talk about. I wanted to thank the Sheriff Department and the ladies of the Chi Tau Mega Chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha and the Washington Street Community Center for the back to school bash they did. That is something near and dear to my heart. That is something that I have been involved in since day one, before I was even a member of the Board of Education, after I became a member, and if I'm never reelected again, still will be a part of, because it is something near and dear to my heart, and there's a need for our children to be ready on the first day of school. And that is awesome that people continue to supply school supplies and stuff. So I appreciate them for stepping up as community members and being a part of that event. So my focus will always be on the children.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. And I want to echo what she's saying about the involvement of the community on the purchasing and sharing of school supplies. I'm sorry I forgot that, but my efforts are there and will always be. So I just throw my hats off and say all involved, an outstanding job. With that said,
Can I say one thing?
yes, ma'am. Oh, absolutely.
But just a quick reminder about our new teacher induction program, and we'll send you some information about the times on July 27th at Newton College and Career Academy. The sessions will begin at 8 o'clock, so we'll send you something in email.
Thank you. If there are no other comments or questions, can I get a motion to dismiss?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.